Are buyers finally getting the shift they've been waiting for, or is the Hampton Roads housing market simply building toward another competitive summer? If you've been following the national headlines, you've probably heard that inventory is rising, homes are sitting longer, and buyers are starting to regain control. But national headlines don't always tell you what's happening right here in the Hampton Roads market. Our market has its own pressures. We have military relocations, we have limited inventory in several cities, we have a large number of buyers using VA financing, and we have very different conditions depending on which side of the water or even which city you're looking at. In fact, some parts of Hampton Roads are still seeing homes sell above asking price in less than 2 weeks. Other areas are quietly giving buyers more room to negotiate. So today, I'm breaking down the June 2026 housing numbers across Hampton Roads. We'll look at prices, inventory, interest rates, military PCS demand, and what the numbers mean for you if you're buying, selling, or simply just trying to decide whether now is the right time to make a move. By the end of this video, you won't just know what the market did. You'll understand where the strongest competition is, where buyers have more leverage, and how to position yourself for the rest of the summer. If we haven't met yet, my name is Carrie Tanner. I'm a local realtor with At Coastal Realty here in the Hampton Roads area. I work with buyers and sellers throughout the region, including military families relocating on PCS orders, first-time buyers, VA buyers, and homeowners preparing for their next move. My goal with these market updates isn't to create urgency or hype. It's to help you understand what is actually happening so you can make a confident decision based on local information. If that sounds helpful, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next update. Now, let's get into the numbers. Before we look city by city, let's start with the biggest story in the market right now. Hampton Roads is not behaving like a market that is falling apart. The median sales price across the region reached $381,000 in June. That is up 4.4% compared with June of last year. It's also up 4.4% since May. So despite the headlines about a national slowdown, local prices are still moving higher. We also had 2,197 closed sales in June. That is nearly 8% more than we had a year ago. And homes are selling on average in 17 days. Sellers are receiving 100.2% of their asking price. That means that the average home sold slightly above the original list price. That is not a weak market. Now, inventory did increase. There were 4,396 active listings across Hampton Roads, which is up 2.6% compared to this time last year. But this is where the interpretation matters. More inventory does not automatically mean we have shifted into a buyer's market. Hampton Roads is still only at 2 months supply of inventory. A market with around 6 months of supply is generally considered balanced. So even though buyers have a few more homes to choose from, we are still operating with a significant inventory shortage. The regional story is simple. Demand remains strong. Prices are still rising, and properly priced homes are still selling quickly. But that does not mean that every city is behaving the same way. Real estate is extremely local. The opportunities and pressure points look very different depending on where you're searching. Let's start with 2 cities where buyer competition is especially strong. Virginia Beach continues to be one of the most competitive markets in the region. The median sales price reached $448,000 in June. That is a 13.4% increase compared to last year. Homes sold on average in just about 12 days, and sellers are receiving an average of 100.3% of their asking price. Active inventory in Virginia Beach is up 10% from last year, which may sound like a good news for buyers, and it is. More choices are better than fewer choices, but Virginia Beach still only has 1.7 months supply of inventory. So that additional inventory is not enough to eliminate competition. The takeaway here is that buyers may have more homes to consider, but they still need to move quickly when the right one comes on the market. A home that is priced well, shows well, and is located in a desirable area can still attract strong attention almost immediately. Now, Chesapeake is telling a similar story, but with an even tighter inventory problem. The median sales price in Chesapeake reached $450,000. That is up 4.7% compared with last year's numbers. Homes sold on average in 15 days, and sellers received 100.6% of their asking price. That is the highest list to sales price ratio in the region. The bigger issue for buyers is inventory. Active listings in Chesapeake are down 8.3% compared to last year. So while other parts of Hampton Roads are seeing more homes come on the market, Chesapeake has fewer available homes than it did a year ago. That helps explain why sellers are receiving more than their asking price on average. There simply are not enough homes available to meet the buyer demand. For buyers, that means preparation matters. You need to understand your financing. You need to know your comfortable payment amount. And when the right home comes on the market, you need a strategy before you write the offer. Waiting several days to decide may mean the home is already under contract or can create more competition. Now, let's move into the cities where buyers may have a little more breathing room. Norfolk is showing a more balanced version of the Hampton Roads market. The median sales price is $339,000. That is up 1.2% compared with last year's numbers. Homes are selling on average in 16 days, and sellers received 99.9% of their asking price. And Norfolk has 2.3 months supply of inventory. That is still below a balanced market, but it gives buyers a slightly more room to negotiate than they do in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach. The important thing to understand is that Norfolk varies greatly by property type, condition, and location. A well-maintained home in a strong price range may still move quickly, but buyers may have a better chance of negotiating repairs, closing cost assistance, or other terms if the home has been sitting on the market for a while or needs updates. Portsmouth delivered one of the strongest price increases in the region. The median sales price reached $299,500. That is up nearly 11% compared to last year. Homes sold on average in 20 days. At the same time, active inventory is down nearly 13%. That combination matters. Prices are rising while the number of homes are falling. For current Portsmouth homeowners, that may mean that your equity has grown more than you realize. And for buyers, it means that the lower median price does not automatically translate into an easy market. There is still competition for homes that are priced correctly and that are in good condition. Now, let's cross over to the peninsula. Hampton continues to offer one of the more accessible median prices in the region. The median sales price is $295,000. That's up 1% compared to last year's numbers. But the more interesting number is sales activity. Closed sales increased by nearly 21% compared to last year. Homes are taking an average of 21 days to sell, and inventory has increased. That makes buyer demand strong. Buyers may have a little more time to evaluate their options than they do in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach, but the market is still competitive. Hampton may be worth a closer look for buyers who want to stay under some of the higher price points in the region, while sellers remain active. Newport News is showing a median sales price of $330,000, which is up 6.6% compared to last year. Closed sales increased by 17%, and the average days on market is 18 days. That's a steady market. It's not showing the extreme competition we're seeing in Chesapeake, but it's also not showing signs of a significant weakness. Buyers need to be prepared, but they may have more options depending on the property and the price range. Now, let's talk about the two areas where buyers currently have the most visible leverage. Suffolk has one of the highest months of supply in the region at 3.3 months. The median sales price is $413,000, which is up 8.1% from last year. Homes sold on average in 21 days. So prices are still rising, but buyers have a little more inventory to work with, and homes are taking a little bit longer to sell. That creates opportunity. If you are looking for a newer construction, more land, or a home where the seller may be willing to negotiate more options, Suffolk may deserve some attention. The key here is not assuming that every seller will negotiate. A home that is priced correctly and in good condition may still have higher demand. Isle of Wight is showing an even more noticeable shift. The median sales price is $425,000. That is down 3% compared with last year's numbers. Active inventory has also increased 50%. The area now has 3 months supply of inventory, and homes are taking a median of 28 days to sell. That is the longest market time in the area that we're discussing. This does not mean Isle of Wight is suddenly a distressed market, but it does mean that buyers have more choices and potentially more negotiating room than they did a year ago. Sellers in that market need to pay close attention to pricing, condition, and how their home compares with the growing number of available listings. Now, let's talk about interest rates, because the payment matters just as much as the price. As of mid-July 2026, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate is sitting at around 6.5%. The Federal Reserve held its benchmark rate steady between 3.5 and 3.75%. Experts are not expecting an immediate rate cut. The current expectation is that mortgage rates may remain in the mid-6% throughout the summer. That means that buyers should be careful about building an entire strategy and in the hopes that rates will fall soon. They may or they may not, but we really don't know what the market will do. And even if rates decline, lower rates could bring more buyers back into the market, which creates additional competition. So instead of waiting for a lower rate, it may make more sense to focus on the overall deal. Could the seller contribute towards your closing costs? Could you negotiate an interest rate buy down? Could you buy a home at today's price and refinance later if the rates improve? Those are the kinds of conversations that buyers should be having. For military buyers, the VA loan remains one of the most valuable tools in the market. Eligible buyers may be able to purchase with no down payment and no private mortgage insurance. The 2026 BAH reset may also give some military households additional purchasing power. And with the new Mariners Row military housing community opening at Little Creek, the military presence continues to shape housing demand throughout the Hampton Roads area. PCS season is especially important during the summer. Families are arriving with timelines that are often not flexible. They need housing near duty stations, they may need to close quickly, and the demand adds another layer of competition, particularly in Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, and other areas near major installation. Now, let's take a break for a quick minute, because if you're thinking about buying a home and this process still feels overwhelming, I have a free resource that may help. I recently hosted an online home buyer seminar, and the full replay is available at no cost. It covers financing, VA loans, first-time buyer programs, inspections, closing costs, and what to expect throughout the entire buying process. The goal is to help you feel more prepared before you start making offers. You'll find the link in the description below. Now, back to the Hampton Roads market. Now, let's turn all of these numbers into an actual strategy. If I were buying in Hampton Roads this summer, I would not approach every city the same. In Chesapeake and Virginia Beach, I would assume a strong new listing may receive quick attention. I would have my financing ready, I would review the documents early, and I would make sure my offer was competitive without automatically giving up every protection. In Norfolk, Hampton, Newport News, and Portsmouth, I would look carefully at how long the property has been on the market, how it compares with recent sales, and the condition. There may be opportunities to negotiate, but the best homes can still move quickly. In Suffolk and Isle of Wight, I would pay close attention to listings that have been on the market longer. That is where buyers may have the strongest chance to request seller-paid closing costs, repairs, or even an interest rate buy-down. I would also avoid assuming that waiting for prices to fall is a guaranteed strategy. The data does not show broad price declines across Hampton Roads. Prices are up in almost every city we reviewed, so the better question is whether you are financially ready and whether the home fits your goals. Now, if I were selling this summer, I would focus on one thing above everything else: positioning. We are still in a seller's market overall, but buyers are more selective than they were a few years ago. They are managing higher monthly payments and down payments. They have more inventory in some areas, and they are paying close attention to condition and value. That means you cannot just simply choose an ambitious price, put a sign in the yard, and assume that buyers will compete. The homes that are selling quickly are usually priced strategically, presented well, and marketed properly from the beginning. If you overprice your home, the market may reject it. Then you may spend weeks reducing the price while newer listings attract the buyers you were hoping to reach. The first few weeks on the market are still extremely important. In Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, sellers may have strong leverage, but only if the home is positioned correctly. In Suffolk and Isle of Wight, sellers need to be especially aware of increasing competition from other listings. More inventory means buyers can compare homes more carefully. So condition, presentation, and price matter here more than ever. Looking ahead, there are 3 things I would watch for the rest of the summer. Military PCS activity should continue supporting demand throughout August. Second, interest rates are likely to remain relatively stable. And third, Hampton Roads price should remain supported by limited inventory and the rising cost of new construction. Nationally, new construction costs have increased by about 40% over the last 5 years because of labor shortages, material costs, and tariffs. That makes it more expensive to add new housing supply. And when new homes become expensive to build, existing homes often benefit because they remain the more affordable option. So, what is the bottom line? The Hampton Roads market is not crashing. Buyers have gained some option, but leverage varies dramatically by city. Virginia Beach and Chesapeake remain highly competitive. Suffolk and Isle of Wight offers buyers more room to negotiate, and across the region, pricing and preparation still determine who has the advantage. Whether you're buying, selling, or relocating on military orders, the key is not reacting to the national headline. It is to understand the specific market you are entering and building a strategy around the local numbers. If you are planning to buy and want a clearer understanding of the process, make sure you watch my free buyer seminar, the link in the description below. And if you're relocating to the area, make sure you check out my relocation guide. That link is also in the description below. These tools are created to help you make confident real estate decisions without the pressure. If this update was helpful, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting me know which Hampton Roads city you are watching closely. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.